Hey, hallå, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Growcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I talk about it. This week's game is Knightin Plus for the PS4. It was released in 2020, and it's a Zelda-ish Shovel Knight looking game. It's an adventure game, I guess, developed by Must Die Studios and published by Ratalaika Games. And also with spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. So this game literally cost less than $1. And it looks like a Zelda-esque game, and it feels like one, and that's why I picked it this week. So at the beginning of the game, you pick your language, and then you can actually go into the options menu and configure all the buttons to your liking, which is not common in PS4 games. And then the main story starts. There's this scroll opening up, starting to tell the story rather, and then there's some fourth wall breaking, like you don't really care about the story, you just want to loot, shop. So you are this character called Sir Loot-a-Lot, and you're a greedy knight, and this game it's like a Zelda game, and it has 4 different dungeons. So this game is very linear. You can't pick the dungeons of your choosing at start. They will more or less unlock on your journey. So the first dungeon is the Forsaken Ruins, and this dungeon more or less teaches you the game. So the first room has a D-pad and the left stick of the controller engraved in the ground, so that more or less teach you how to move around. And the second room has like a square, and that equals the sword or something like that. So it's kind of funny, I think, a way to not saying anything but teaching you how to play the game. So this game is more or less like Zelda 1, in and out. It has hearts and it has keys and for doors and stuff, and there even has bosses that are similar to Zelda and enemies. So some of the enemies that you will encounter in the first dungeon are mushrooms that are moving around, and flying enemies like skulls with wings. I think you also encounter slimes in the later floors. So once you kill an enemy, they will drop a heart, or what looks like a heart. I don't think the game actually calls it specifically a heart, but whatever. Or they can drop gold, and gold is used to buy things in shop, like items and stuff. And there is like one thing I figured out much later during the week, that there are these big potions. I thought they were related to health, but they actually give you an extra heart. So throughout the dungeon, if you beat certain puzzles and farm for this magical bottle health potion thing, you will actually gain a heart, so you can earn 2 hearts for each dungeon. Later in the game you will find keys, and that will lead you down into the basement, and then you will pick up a shield, and the shield is used with the L2 button and L1 button, I believe. So I fought this some green slimes, and the boss of this level is actually kind of funny. It's called Almost a Dragon, and it's just a big frog that jumps around, so you get this dash ability early on. It's like the Pegasus boots in A Link to the Past. So you can run into the enemy with your sword drawn. It has like a cooldown, and that's about it. It's just pure hack and slash Zelda, 16-bit looking all the way through. So the next dungeon is the Ancient Pyramid, and here you will fight some Diglett Pokemon looking enemies. They pop out of the ground, but instead of like the classic brown Pokemon color that Diglett has, it's actually pink. You will also fight some other enemies that look like manets, so they spit up bubbles, and the bubbles obviously hurt you. And then there are some green enemies that you also fight, so they charge at you when they have a line of sight, if that makes sense. So in this level you can also pick up the Herculean Bracelet. So what it does is, the description of the item is kind of funny. You can open up difficult jars with your bare hands, but what it really does is you can move boulders, and that's used for some of the puzzles. You actually need to move a couple of boxes around in this level to get the extra heart container, and I actually like these puzzles. They're a little bit challenging. It's like the Sokoban game that I played, or Boxel for all the Europeans out there. It's a little bit like a mind puzzle thing. It's one of the things I can complain about the puzzles is if you leave the room and go back, it doesn't reset. So you have to go all the way up a floor or so and then go back. And this game also has a very good thing with saving. So once you enter, there are these save lights, if that makes sense. And there are some, once you go up and down a level, it also saves. So this game, covers that, I guess. So this level also introduced traps. So you don't want to walk into the traps, but usually there are traps everywhere, and there are a lot of enemies in the room, and you can't really go to the next room without beating the enemies in this room, just like Zelda. So a lot of frustration moments where you're just trying to avoid enemies and traps, and it just throws you in there. So there's not really much more to say about the game. You go through the levels, you loot a lot, you go through the other levels, the deserted temple and the dark tower, and you will find items and loot stuff and get extra heart containers by solving puzzles and buying the red potions. And yeah, that's about it. So gameplay, survive the 4 dungeons while unlocking new abilities and items and just do pure looting. Controls, the D-pad and left sticks moves Sir Loot-a-lot around. The square button swings the sword, the X button interacts with things, the R1 does the dash ability like the Pegasus boots, L1 and L2 is the sword button, and you can block certain projectiles. I forgot to use this a lot during the playthrough actually, and options brings up the pause menu. Graphics. The best way I can describe this game is it looks like A Link to the Past had a child with a shovel knight or something like that. It's colorful and all the enemy sprites are actually kind of cute. Sound and music. Håkon Dale made the soundtrack for this game and it's a chirpy 16-bit sounding soundtrack and it makes me feel right at home. There's not much more I can say about it. Easter eggs, secrets and glitches. I couldn't find any this week and yeah, sometimes that's the case. In conclusion, I wrote, yes, play it if you like short Zelda-esque games. So I like the chirpy soundtrack, I like the sprite and the dungeon design, and it was for sale for less than $1. So this game is more or less on every platform. It's on phone, Xbox, PlayStation and the Switch, and probably some more that I don't even know about. So if you like Zelda-esque games, give this one a try. So anyway, thanks for listening and for watching, and take care.